of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, listening. SST, Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and now on YouTube. Join me today, some special guests, one of which you hear quite often on Subway Sports Talk, talking NFL draft. First and foremost, my boy, Kyle Anderson. What's up, brother?
Yes, sir. What's going on, man? Hype. I'm hype. Shit is ready. Shit is here, man. I'm ready.
Rocking the Giants jersey, rocking the fresh new glasses, feeling lively out here.
Listen, man. Gotta keep them milfs guessing, man. You never know. I'm just playing, Liv. I'm just playing.
Keeping somebody guessing.
Yeah, man.
And of course, now we got a first timer on Subway Sports Talk. Honestly, I love the energy around a first time co-host, guest, whatever you want to call it, on the show. So Tom Allen, TA, what's good, my man? Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Kyle got me nervous with his radio voice. You got the radio voice. I'm just happy to be here.
Hey, who knows if it's the microphone, if it's the voice, he got that deep tone.
Yeah, I'm the only one without a microphone. That's what I'm saying. I got to get a water bottle. Act like I'm on a mic here.
I remember the first time Kyle got the mic, because he sounded good before with the regular headphones going, but then he gets the microphone. And Mule, another guy who's been on the show a bunch of times, texted me, he's like, damn, Kyle sounds like Jesus. That's the nicest thing you could say about anything.
Yes, sir. For real, man. It's like Bruce Almighty Jr.
He has that Keith McPherson 10 p.m. WFAN voice right there.
Man.
So that's tough to keep up with. But I'm happy to be here.
Trying to set that mood, you know what I'm saying? Trying to set that mood, even though we talk about sports.
Shout out Keith. Great guy, by the way. I met him a couple times now, but being back as a fan. Good dude. Very good dude. Look forward to seeing what he does over there. But we're doing over here, though, is talking NFL draft. And it's exciting because everybody loves the draft. It's weirdly not that exciting to the general public, to the average Joe, because the quarterbacks aren't that exciting. But however, there's some dudes in this draft. There's some people who the Jets and Giants, as the home teams of this particular show, are going to be targeting, who can be potential franchise cornerstones. To me, that's exciting by itself. And now I have a take that I'll save for a few minutes from now. I'll do a little tease for you guys here. The draft with the quarterbacks, everybody's feeling a little bit about it. But there's an alternate way to look at this, where there's a lane for these quarterbacks to capitalize on an opportunity to set them up for success. So we're going to save that because we're not going to talk about them with the first couple picks. Obviously, that's not going to be them. There's other guys to talk about. But just think about that. And when we get to the quarterbacks, we shall discuss at length. So there's one place to start here when you talk about the NFL draft. You talk about any draft in general. It's who's going number one. And up until about a week ago, I wish I had dropped that a week ago. And then it was Aidan Hutchinson forever. It was him, all no doubt. But now there's some new thoughts here, Kyle, about this dude from Georgia, Walker, who people are saying might have been like the fifth or sixth best guy on Georgia's defense alone. So Trayvon Walker, edge rusher, Georgia, elite tools, productivity, on the other hand, wasn't amazing. So Kyle, what to you leads you to believe somebody over the other, Hutchinson over Walker, Walker over Hutchinson, will be the first pick? And then, if you talk Hutchinson, I want to hear your thoughts on Walker too.
Yeah, I think what I've been hearing is that Walker is definitely more of an upside pick. And as one of the D linemen at Georgia had a lot of like rotating linemen. So they were so deep where they were sending like 4 on, 4 off the field. And since Walker didn't really get that many reps, I think a lot of guys watching the film is realizing that he has the potential to kind of like take over games, and I think he's like super twitchy and can definitely get after the quarterback. I think some people see that as a good thing because I guess they say like, oh, there aren't that many miles on his body. But at the same time, other people see Hutchinson and they're like, dude, you see the productivity, you see him playing big games. He has probably triple the amount of stats that Walker has. And I think Walker had 9 total sacks in his career. And I'm pretty sure Hutchinson had way more than that in probably this past season and, all those years combined. I think what it sounds like is that Walker's going to be the first pick, but I think Hutchinson is definitely just the first guy. I think run game wise, I think he's really good. He uses hands very well, and he gets after the quarterback. Like pretty much every big game that Michigan had last year that they won, and obviously that he just like stepped up. You know, if you think about Michigan State, Ohio State, who else would they have in that division? That was pretty tough last year. Pretty much the entire Big Ten. But those two main big games, you know, Ohio State, Michigan State, he stepped up and he showed up. So I just think that it's tough to pass up on that when they have a guy that's going to the NFL, it's going to be put in those situations and is delivered in those situations that, you know, you kind of pass up on that. I don't know. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, and TA, I'm going to throw over to you quick because this is more of an overarching draft question. You could obviously throw in your thoughts on the specifics too. People talk about the first round in the NFL draft, and usually at the very top, 1, 2, and 3, even one top 5, if you will, you want a complete package. You want the measurables, you want the pedigree, you want the statistics from college level. And then you get into the 10, 15, 20 range. You need, you know, elite athleticism and some production, or elite production with some athleticism, 20s, 30s, etc. Then you need one or the other, and then on and so forth. You kind of start to parse it out there. So when you hear this breakdown of Trayvon Walker, do you feel like it's crazy for his name to be mentioned in this top echelon, or do you think it's deserved?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with all these mock drafts, and you know, you're hearing this guy's going to go 1, next thing you know, Travon Walker is 1. The media has their take on who's their top guys, and the front office guys could have a completely different view. And, you know, productivity, we tend to zero in on, right? Quarterback throws 50 touchdowns in college. He's my number 1. But that doesn't necessarily mean it translates over, you know, to the NFL. So I think Trayvon Walker is a prime example where Hutchinson had all the production, all the numbers. Trayvon Walker didn't. But in terms of athleticism, how's that going to translate in certain defenses? I think that's kind of where you're seeing that shift. So it's tough, man. I honestly, I think, you know, if I'm a betting man, I'd probably lean Hutchinson because I think it is important to produce, especially at the college level. But it wouldn't shock me if he goes number 1. You know, especially right now, it's all the smoke screens coming out. You really don't know. And I find this draft to be the most interesting one because normally we have that number 1 pick locked in. We have no clue who's going to go number 1. You know, Vegas has Trayvon Walker going 1. I'm watching mock drafts today, back to Hutchinson. So it's going to be interesting. I'm super excited to see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at DraftKings, and Trayvon Walker is officially the favorite, and it's not exactly a small favorite. He's minus 300 to be the number 1 overall pick. Aidan Hutchinson up to plus 300. That's a huge swing over the past, I would say, 3 to 5 days. Like it's been swinging that direction, but for it to now be minus 300 in Trayvon Walker's favor as the number 1 pick, it is crazy. I don't know. How do you guys feel about the whole, like, and Kyle, I think you started to touch on some of this before. I don't know if you got all the way to it with Hutchinson, you know, playing at Michigan, the Lions being right there to make that pick possibly. Does that matter? You know, like, is that something, if you're a GM, if you're a coach, that you want to look into, or do you want to almost throw that out the window because you don't want to be clouded by it?
I guess you would probably want to throw it out the window just because the Lions like just aren't in that position to like take like a homer pick if that was their approach. But I think the good thing is for them is that if the Jaguars do take Walker, now it turns into like, look, man, we got our home guy. We got a guy that actually is really good. You know, he happens to be really good, but also a homer, you know, from Michigan. I think it works. I think they're like hoping that Walker gets picked. And I honestly, for them, I think he's the better pick anyway. So if I'm the Lions, I mean, that's what I'll be thinking. But if I'm any other team, let's say like, you know, say the Redskins, you know, want to take Willis or something like that. I don't know, whatever situation like that. You know, the Commanders. I'm sorry, Commanders. Did I say the Redskins? My bad. The Commanders want to take Willis, right? I would go and say like, all right, well, if that's the best pick for you, I wouldn't do it, you know, because like, oh well, this is a hometown guy. If I'm say the Packers and you're in that situation and say it's like some stud receiver, I mean, I guess you could afford it just because like you are, you're kind of like already in a good position. You know what I mean? Like some of these teams can't really afford to just be like, let's do it because he's like a hometown guy. Like, yo, man, you guys had the hometown guys. Like, you guys stink, man. Like, you need everybody. Like whoever can help you win, you need.
You need to hometown.
I think it's one of those things where if it works out that way, it works out that way. It's by no means driving the pick. I mean, look at obviously quarterback, way different position, but Joe Burrow, that fell perfectly. And then you got the whole state rallying and, it's the hometown guy and crushing it. If it works out, great. I don't look at pass rusher as that, obviously that same, rah-rah behind the guy. But it would be cool. It'd be a cool story. Obviously, you get the Michigan guy, keep him at Detroit. Hopefully, with crazy Dan Campbell, get his ass running around the field, and that'd be a lot of fun. But like I said, I don't think it's a driver of the pick.
So you guys Kyle, you kind of said Aidan Hutchinson's your pick for number 1. TA, do you have a lean? Do you have a guy that you would go with if you were the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I honestly would go Hutchinson too. Like I said, I would just match the physicality and the production. I don't think anyone could get mad at that pick. I think it's kind of a safer pick than Trayvon Walker, so I'll go Hutchinson as well.
Yeah,
Pete, and good point because sorry, my bad, Pete. And I just want to say like it's just like a pick that you know what you're getting. I think that's you for the Jaguars especially. Like you want to know that this is a number 1 talent and this guy's legit, and you definitely know that with Hutchinson. I don't know if we know that with Walker. Like with just a sample size.
Yeah, 100%. I'm leaning the same direction, and it would be one thing if Hutchinson was all production without athleticism to boot, right? Like if he tested out average and everything and he was just a dominant college player, that would be one thing. But this isn't Tyler Hansbrough of football, right? Like this is a dude. Like this is a serious athlete out here. So, I'm with that. I think Aidan Hutchinson's the right pick. And that doesn't necessarily mean that Walker is the second pick. That's the interesting thing about this draft. Sometimes if 1 happens, then 2 happens, and 3 happens, but book it, right? If Hutchinson goes 1, I think 2, 3, 4 can go in many different ways. But if Walker goes 1, I think it's almost a guarantee Hutchinson goes 2 with maybe throw in Thibodeau, which we'll get into in a minute, but that's kind of it, right? So it's kind of interesting in that regard. Hutchinson 1, who knows what happens. Trayvon Walker, you can almost guarantee Hutchinson's 2. So let's talk about Kayvon Thibodeau here. Ranked up at 1 at some points throughout the year, then 2, then 3, then people are like trying to go a little crazy, putting him all the way down there. That might be a little bit of an overreaction. This dude's a freak. He had production. He just didn't have the snap share, I guess is the word. Like he couldn't play the percentage of snaps that you would want out of a top 5 pick to make it worthwhile to pick that high. But his athleticism is undeniable. His skills undeniable. People are worried about his drive. Something that us 3, we're not exactly NFL insiders. We're not having these conversations with coaches and whatever. But when you hear about all this stuff, does it make you nervous, TA, with Kayvon Thibodeau, that you hear all this? Or do you think that the ability he has outweighs all the other stuff?
I definitely think it's something that you kind of hear out. I mean, so much being put out there too. Smoke screens, whatever you want to call it. I'm a big fan of him. I think, coming into the year, right, prior to the college year, he was the projected, that early mock 1. And then obviously, he's banged up a little bit. To your point, snap share wasn't there. He definitely talks the talk. You hear him in these interviews. He says he wants to be in New York. He wants a spotlight. He's asking for a lot, obviously. But I think he's a stud. I honestly could argue that he's ahead of the 2 other guys we mentioned. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think you have to do your due diligence as a front office. But at the end of the day, as long as he's not getting into trouble off the field and he wants to play football, I mean, that's the most important thing to me.
So not to jump into our picks 4, 5, and 7 and 10 conversation that's coming up. And if you don't know what that means, that's talking Jets and Giants. Are you perhaps showing your hand a little bit that if Thibodeau does happen to fall, which is possible, by the way, it wouldn't have been looked at as possible a few weeks ago or a few months ago for him to be the 7th overall pick right now. But now with all this, in your hands here, as a Giants guy, I know you've been locked into those picks here. Would you take Thibodeau at 5 or 7 for that matter?
Yeah, honestly, I would. I know the glaring need is filling that right tackle position. But if KT is there, he'd be a tough guy to pass up on. I mean, we haven't had a pass rusher in a long time. I was listening to something earlier. The last time we had double-digit sacks was Marcus Golden, and he was just kind of a journeyman, sign. So it would be tough to pass up on KT. I know that right tackle position is so glaring. I know Giants fans go into every year thinking we need to fill out the roster to win this year. You need to think bigger picture. You need to think longer term. And I know we'll get more into that later in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. I mean, so real quick, close the loop on Thibodeau. I think he's going to be a player in the next level. I think he's going to end up going. I think it's going to end up being Hutchinson and then Thibodeau number 2. You were talking about it before, and I agree. I always talk about this with the NBA draft. Sometimes when you have like a consensus 1-2 and people are paid to talk about this stuff daily for like 6 months, like Todd McShay has had this mock draft out for over a year. Think about that.
Yeah.
The last draft happened less than a year ago. He's had this draft ready to go. He's been doing this for so long, and not just him. I'm talking about all the guys. You talk about it. You beat yourself up over it, and then you start changing stuff up. Oh, I'm overthinking this. I'm overthinking that, and you start to mix it up. I would not be shocked if Thibodeau still goes top 2. I think I might actually look for that to happen. But then again, if he's on the board at 5, 6, 7 range, we can't pretend like it's a shock either. It's not like he fell like 6 weeks ago. He didn't fall on draft night, right? So it's a very different thing to think about in regards to Thibodeau. Moving on to my next question here. There's 2 cornerbacks who are projected to be top 10 picks, Sauce Gardner and Stingley out of LSU. Stingley in particular has had a weird college career. As a freshman, he was electric, just stud corner for LSU. Kind of had some injuries, kind of had some down production. People still love his tools and everything. Sauce Gardner, people love him. Production, swag, skill, the whole 9. I personally get nervous drafting a corner, top 5, top 10. Don't think it works out super often, especially when tackle, edge rusher, quarterback are so damn prevalent in this NFL that I see Gardner mocked between 4 and 8. And I'm like, I hope it's not 5 or 7. TA, how do you feel about the idea of corners going this early in the draft? Not even those 2 in particular.
Yeah, no, it's a great point you bring up. Honestly, I'm a fan. I think in today's NFL, what you need to have, especially with how quick the ball gets out, you need to have back end help, right? You need to have guys that can lock up, for a few seconds, let that pass rush get there, let guys get their hands up. So it's not the sexiest pick. I think everyone wants, either the quarterback or the pass rusher, right? Or even the receiver for that matter. But the corner has become that much more important of a position. These guys get paid so much now in free agency. It makes it that much more important to draft certain positions, just because that much cap gets allocated to these positions. You got receivers getting $25 million. You get corners getting $20 million. So, I hear what you're saying, but both of those guys, I think, are absolute studs. Stingley, some injury history, especially I think it's foot injury, concerns me a little. Especially in the NFL, all these guys are playing on turf. Those type of injuries tend to come back. But Sauce Gardner gives me a lot of it reminds me of Antonio Cromartie, lanky, long, man corner, going to get in your face, going to press you at the line. So I wouldn't be disappointed if the Giants, with one of those picks, got him, but it would have to fall a certain way. Obviously I would love the O tackle and then maybe him at the 7.
Right.
But it's definitely going to be interesting.
Now, would you feel the same way if they didn't have 2 picks in the top 10? Like if they just had 5 or just had 7, does that change how you look at it? So I think it could.
That 100%. I mean, that's the thing here, because if you think what's going to make Giant fans happy is getting an offensive line together, right? After all these years, you could go out and get as many weapons. We saw what they did last year. Drafted Tony, signed Galladay, obviously drafted Barkley. The list goes on and on. Without an O-line, it doesn't matter, right? So the O-tackle is the pick. But the question is, if one of your, let's say, 2 guys or 3 guys is not there, do you force that O-tackle pick? Are we thinking 2-3 years out? And is that where the value of Gardner? Now, obviously, the 2 picks allows you to hit on both of them, hopefully. But a lot of what we spoke about already is what could shake up the draft. Travon Walker goes 1. These O-tackles start to fall, right? Because now all of a sudden Hutchinson off the board. Maybe Thibodeau goes. Maybe the Jets look to take corner, right? They need help on the back end big time. There's smoke screens going out there about Jermaine Johnson coming up from Florida State. A lot of production against good talent. It's going to be interesting. Honestly, I'm interested to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be wild because I think regular fans, and not that we're like incredibly different from regular fans, but obviously we're looking into this as much as we can here. Like, people are going to be like, oh, who's this guy? What's that guy? Who's Charles Cross? Like, is he good? Like, I don't know. Like, I'd say 90% of Giants fans here are going to look at Evan Neal and Charles Cross and Ekwonu, the 3 big tackles in the draft, and kind of be like, sure, we got one of them. I feel great about that. Like, let's go. But everybody knows Sauce Gardner. His name is Sauce Gardner, right?
Yeah. Got the sauciest name in the draft. That's for sure.
And even Derek Stingley was like electric on an LSU team that was electric. And those guys are a little bit sexier picks. And what makes me nervous, I guess, about it from like the overarching standpoint is similar to the idea of the running back thing, where I don't mind drafting running backs in the first round if you already have everything else you need, right? Like, the Giants shouldn't have taken Saquon Barkley. I think it's all everybody at this point could agree on it, even though we love Saquon. We know he's talented. It's nothing to do with Saquon. It has to do with the Giants and how they were not ready to add a running back to a team that had all these other holes. On a defensive standpoint, I sometimes look at the corner being like the final piece rather than the foundational piece. It seems like we kind of disagree on that a little bit. And, you talked about it before with the quick passing game. Corners have to tackle. It's incredibly important to be strong there. But I guess maybe it's just to do with, bad taste in our mouth with Okudah, the most recent top 5, no doubter. Okudah is going to be a corner. He's going to be a stud in this league. And then and injured. And then, but what happened, right? It can happen to anybody, but for some reason it feels a little more fickle with corners. The one thing though, that you mentioned that I do love about him, 6'3", 200 pounds, like long, you gotta be happy about that.
Well, in my opinion, corner is the second hardest position in the NFL outside of quarterback. Right? You're asked to cover the biggest freaks on earth running full speed at you. They know where they're going and you don't, and you're in a back pedal. So, right. So it's the toughest position. And especially in college, when they let you jam up until the ball's in the air, it's completely different rules. Right. So basically, you get these freaks of nature running at you and you're playing with different rules. It's definitely tough to translate. But when you do get that guy, it's a game changer. I mean, the Giants over the last couple of years have had some pretty good corners. I mean, James Bradbury's been a stud, even though we've been such a sorry team. And, obviously Adoree Jackson had a very underrated year. I don't think many people spoke about him, but as a corner, that's a good thing when you don't hear someone's name.
True.
And then you even look back to when we were good, the last time the Giants were good, when we won the division 11-5, you had Jackrabbit on one side, and we haven't had that pass rusher, but the back end makes up for it. You think of Wink Martindale's defense; he's able to create pressure with a lot of guys that you really don't see being drafted at the top of drafts, right? And then they go on to get a second contract that big. You talk about the Matt Judos, the guy Bowser. There's guys that Wink creates these passing lanes because he has those corners on the back end that can hold up.
That's a great point.
So that's the thing that I look at of why that position could be so valuable, especially when in today's NFL with the cap, and these players getting paid, you got so much allocated to those positions. So I think it's that much more important to draft those certain positions.
You did a good job selling me there a little bit. I feel the Wink Martindale pull in that you just pulled out there, that was great, because if you think about what happened with the Ravens last year, yes, Lamar was banged up, and now, oh my God, it's slipping my head. Who was their stud DB that got hurt last year in Baltimore?
Humphrey,
yeah, Humphrey
Marlon
got
Humphrey.
hurt. Marlon Humphrey got hurt, and that changed their whole outlook on the season. And it wasn't their D-line that was falling apart. It wasn't their inability to get pressure. It was their pass defense was Swiss cheese, right?
Yep.
So you might have got something there, TA.
Think about this, and before we move on, think how many times as a Giant fan we sit there watching these games, and it's 3rd and 7, and we got these receivers catching the ball at the sticks, and our corners are playing 10 yards off, and we're like, why aren't they getting up? Why aren't they pressing these guys? And they're sitting back and they're doing that make and break, bend but don't break defense the whole way down the field. Wink does not do that, right? He'll live and die on cover 0 and bringing pressure. So without secondary, that whole scheme does not work. And that's why I think it's that much more important that if Gardner or Stingley are there. Now, I know, obviously, like I said, I want that offensive tackle, but I think, it really, we'd come out of this draft very happy, even if we don't get that pass rusher, that I think everyone wants that tackle and the pass rusher. I'd be very happy with the tackle in the corner. Wow.
That's a great job by you, Tom Allen. Just say your full name again. I don't want everyone to be like, who's this guy? What his name was said so long ago. TA, Tom Allen, TA. Great job by you.
2 first names. You can't trust me, but you can listen to me when it comes to the Giants. I got you.
There you go. We lost Kyle for a minute, but he is back. To give him the quick spark notes. Basically, I was saying how, like, I'm not feeling the corners in a top 5, top 10 capacity, just because the tackle, edge rush, quarterback positions are so intense to me that's where I want to look at top 10 wise. And I have bad taste in my mouth from Okudah with Detroit just not panning out amongst others over the past handful of years. TA kind of talked me into a little bit, Kyle. So before we move on to some more topics here, you didn't get to spit your game on what you think the New York Giants should do. We're talking about possibly the ideas of getting a tackle and using the other pick to grab one of the corners, maybe Sauce Gardner. But what do you look at here now? 5 and 7, 2 opportunities for the New York Giants to grab these picks here. What's your game plan going in, and who are the 2 positions that you are targeting, or 2 players for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely look tackle, and I guess it's best available defensive player for either corner or edge rusher. And I guess I'm leaning towards corner because it seems like this draft has a lot of edge rushers and a lot more top heavy with the corners. So I think after, like, this first selection of corners goes away, I don't know how many of them are left over. And they keep talking about how they're going to ship Bradbury and they're looking to trade him. I think this will probably be an opportunity for our defense to solidify a corner before trusting some guy off the street that we're going to have to sign, and he's going to get abused all year. So I'd rather pick up the young guy, and typically the Giants never have like a shutdown corner. I feel like the best corner we've had, since I've been a fan, and it's probably been a while. It's probably, you're thinking like those 08 and to 05 teams, I don't know if first name thought of, literally was gonna say Corey Webster. Like Corey Webster was probably the last best corner we've had, bro.
On a good team.
That was how long ago was that?
Yeah, we were saying Jack Rabbit was a good corner for a minute with the Giants.
It's like end of yeah.
Honestly, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie was solid too. But no, you're right. We haven't had Corey Webster. I felt like he didn't play like a shutdown corner. He got very good in that playoffs when it was crunch time, and then carried it into those following years. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We haven't had that, A1 guy. I mean, Bradbury's been awesome. But obviously we paid him a lot of money to come over in free agency, and, you want to allocate those dollars in that offensive line, defensive line, and be able to draft those expensive positions in free agency, which is why I think it's that much. Pivot to the Jets for a minute. It's very important for them to not trade for one of these receivers and draft a receiver at 10. Don't give up that 10th pick to get DK or Debo, draft that guy, because receivers tend to translate a lot easier to the NFL than some other positions. But I think there's some studs in this draft too.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to receivers in a little bit. And I went through it before last year's draft. I did a full episode on just receivers and basically how many there are in the draft every year. There's like 5 to 7, like no joke, wide receivers in the draft every single year. And they don't all come in the top 10. In fact, I heard a list the other day, like the number 1 overall receivers in the past 10 drafts, like 3 of them became all-star, all-pro level players out of 10. Like it was ugly. And there's good players in all those drafts. There's good receivers. So I hear that a lot. You're going to grab Debo, you're going to grab DK and pay them $20 million. Like the Dolphins just grabbed Tyreek Hill and gave him a bag. That's great. You got Tyreek Hill, but now how flexible are you in these other facets of building out your team where you could have grabbed, they got Jalen Waddle last year, not going to get Jalen Waddle 2 years in a row, but you get somebody who's 85% of Jalen Waddle and you're feeling pretty good about your number 2 wide receiver. So there's opportunities there. We're definitely going to get to those.
Think about, and like you said, don't pay Debo and pick up a guy. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to get him every time, but give me 75% of Justin Jefferson's production and I'll be okay when we're not paying him, 20, 30 mil a year. So I'll definitely take that too. If I'm, like in the Jets situation.
100%. And the same goes for the corner, right? Bradbury for, I don't know what he's making, like a good chunk of change, or
I think his cap hits we'd free up 15, but I think, he's making north of 20 just based on restructures and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, cap hit of 15 million. I mean, that's one of the reasons the Giants were a lot quieter in the first wave of free agency, was money tied up there.
Right. Yeah. Great point. So on the tackle front, Okonwu, Neal, and Cross, the big 3 names really going out in this draft here. Is there one lean for you guys? Is there one guy who stands out above the rest? Kind of different styles. I mean, Evan Neal is a ginormous human being. The other guys are a little bit more normal size, and by normal I mean still huge. So is there one guy who stands out for you guys on the tackle front?
You want me to go first, Kyle? You want to take it?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, you go ahead.
So honestly, the way I look at, and this is like, to me as a Giant fan, this has become that quarterback like sexy topic just because this is what the Giants need. But I've been doing some of my homework on these tackles, and I honestly put Neal and Icky in that 1A and 1B. I think Neal is the most polished all around. I think Icky has the highest ceiling, right? So when you think of some of the things I love about both of them, is great punch. When they get in on someone, they do not let them go. Icky has the tilt in the run game. Neal has the tilt in the passing game. I think both are studs and can be awesome if you plug them in at that right side. I don't think anyone's taken the left side from Andrew Thomas. I think he's played very well and has really established that left tackle position for the Giants. But the one downside about Neal, I find sometimes he lunges. You find him, especially against good talent in some of those SEC games, he's on his knees or he's falling forward. That's stuff that will get cleaned up in the NFL. With Icky, sometimes he's crossing his feet, needs a little bit of help in the passing game. But I think both those guys are stud. I like Charles Cross. He's being known as the top pass protector. I don't think that's necessarily as true as everyone's saying it is. They also run that air raid offense, where he went to college, and wide splits and, things that aren't necessarily going to directly translate to the NFL. I think he has that long pass blocking type tackle body. He's a little bit lighter. I think he's like 310. But I think all guys, I would be ecstatic with those top 2 guys. With Cross, it would feel to me more like we're drafting for need rather than best available.
No, yeah, I agree. I the way I've been seeing it, the same thing with Neal and Okonwu was that he was more of the run guy, and Cross was and Neal was the more the pass protector, but also I kept hearing that Cross was like, but his upside, he's a guy that can move very well. He's got great feet, but he's a project. You're like, all right, man, like you're drafting this high. I don't want a project. Like, we kind of already did that with my man from Miami. I can't think of his name right now.
Flowers.
Flowers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we shouldn't even mention that name.
It's already like erased from my mind. Like I don't
I
even
like
want to mention his name. Like freaking Voldemort or some shit. But like legit, like I can't. I legit like I like that's not what we need. We need a guy that's going to come in and we can sub him into our line and he's going to produce right away. Like we're already coming in with a new staff. We don't need to also babysit a rookie at a right tackle spot if he can, if we know that he can, we could potentially draft somebody that can already play and just, get them into the offense. And that's a great point too, TA, was that Cross, he's in the air raid offense. Like that's a lot of it's great. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, everyone knows you're passing, so he's got great footwork and can probably pass at the hell, till the day is long. But at the same time, like, yeah, we have to run the ball. Like, can he, get down and get nasty in the trenches when we need, like, 3rd and 2 and we're running power behind him? Like, can he get into a down block? Can he, get out on a stretch block? I don't know about that. Mississippi never runs the ball. Mississippi State.
Well, yeah, what concerns me too is I was looking at, certain write-ups on them. Cross didn't have a good 2020 season. He gave up like 6 sacks, a ton of pressures, and then he got a lot better this year. Like I said, I don't want to make it seem like he's not going to be a good player. I just think those other two are in a different class compared to him. And like we said, earlier, I think Kyle, when you got cut off, if Trayvon goes 1, all of a sudden these other pass rushers start to come along, we might be left at 5 with one of those 2 guys, and I would go nuts. And then you tell me we get Sauce at 7, or one of these other pass rushers, Jermaine Johnson, I think is a stud. I'll be pretty happy. So it's gonna be interesting, man. I think a lot of good talent, but I think there's a big fall off after those 3 guys.
Okay,
where I truly don't believe the next guy, let's say it's Trevor Penning,
right,
is
not a tackle. Oh, he's a tackle. Yeah.
Well, he's a tackle, but I don't think he's a plug and play day one. Right? I don't think you're drafting him as, hey, we feel so confident. I think if the Giants can't get their hands on one of those 3 guys for whatever reason, no one's talking about this, but Darrell Williams played in Buffalo, free agent. I think the Giants can circle back in free agency if they move some cap around and do things like that. But we don't need to get into that. Hopefully it works out where they get one of those 2 tackles.
Yeah, I was thinking of the center from Iowa, not Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa.
Yes, Linderbaum.
Linderbaum. Yeah. Because he's got some juice, but he's a center, so he ain't going top 10.
I was going to say, it definitely
he's starting to fall. And he's starting to fall too. Because remember, in the early mocks, everyone's like, the typical Giant fans that want to win every single year. It's like, all right, we need to draft one of these tackles at 5, and then we need to draft Linderbaum at 7. And now Linderbaum's projected to maybe go top of the 2nd round.
Yeah, right.
Or late.
They've been saying late first,
2.
right?
So that's what I'm saying. There's so much that goes out there early, and people throw their mock drafts. It really doesn't matter. And the media to the front offices, 2 completely different things.
Yeah, for sure.
That little Randy Moss for you, Kyle.
I love that. Love that.
And quickly on the Jets front here, they're in a little bit more of an interesting position here, because if they do draft an O-lineman in the first round, whether that be at 4 or 10, or if they trade down and go for a Penning, who knows, right? They don't necessarily have to rely on that rookie tackle or rookie O-lineman in general year 1, because they have Mekhi Becton, who, if he's healthy, should be a player, right? And George Fant, older dude, nothing special, but can play and had a good year last year, right? Like he was a solid player last year. If they go for a Charles Cross at 10 rather than a Neal at 4, then Cross can have some time to develop, have a veteran in George Fant around him to kind of learn the ropes or whatever you want to say. Is that a realistic option, or do you see the Jets at 4, who obviously will make a big difference on the Giants or who they select? Do you see them going tackle at 4 basically almost back to back from, Mekhi was 2 years ago, but 2 and 3 years, top tier picks, O-line.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's O-line at 4 or
No matter what.
I think it's O-line at 4 no matter what. And I think it's either for them, Neal or Icky. I think that, they have that offensive line is solidified enough where they don't need to go that way. I think they need more help on the defensive side of the ball, and they need to get Zach. This is the biggest year for Zach Wilson. And honestly, I don't want to burst any bubbles for Jets fans out there, but look who's in your division, and you can't look at this year. This year's all about Zach, right? And him having a good year, and Joe Douglas looking great for picking Zach Wilson last year the way he did. You got the Buffalo Bills, you got the Dolphins who are loading up, and you obviously got the Patriots. They need to start thinking we need impact players longer term, right? And that's one of my reasons I'm saying don't trade for the DK, the Debo, because that money is going to be needed when they're that 1 or 2 piece away from trying to take that leap to the top of that division. Right. So I think they either take it at 4 and then you really load up. That offensive line is stout, right? You got 3 first-round picks on that offensive line at that point. Or I think they need that. I mean, that secondary, who's it? Is it Bryce Hall? Is their corner? But he's like a solid number 2. They need corner. They have Carl Lawson coming back, but they could definitely use a pass rusher, KT, even maybe Jermaine Johnson. But I think receiver at 10 is going to be the obvious pick.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit envious of the Jets right now for a couple of reasons. One of which is the receiver that they picked over the Giants. Not over the Giants, after the Giants last year. Elijah Moore was my dude last year.
That was your boy.
I was so mad the Giants didn't take him, and then he went to the Jets, so I still root for Elijah Moore. Don't get it twisted. But they have a really good opportunity here, T. I like how you broke that down. If they went all out right now, they're going to make a leap from a 4-win team to a 7-win team with a brand new shiny toy wide receiver, right? That's not that special. But if you take the right O-lineman, you take a Garrett Wilson or a Jamison Williams, and then you could still possibly become that 7-win team, and you use that money in 2 years for that 3rd year, that's when you make the leap, right? Like the Jets are in a 2 to 3 year plan here. They're not in a 1-year plan. And that's why I 100% agree with what you thought their strategy should be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even forget about the division with the Bills. I mean, and then Miami and the guys in the AFC in general. Like, we have the extra wildcard team. Who cares? To your point, they're there to compete, to scrap, to be in games, but really to prove that Zach Wilson was the right pick. That is everything this year for them, right? Yeah. So that's why I think it's that weapon, but then you need to start building those expensive pieces through the draft rather than get them through free agency for those following years when they're trying to take that leap. And then you could allocate that money in those, interior spots on the D-line, on the O-line, linebacker, safety, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Kyle, I want to ask you because you kind of missed it before, and we didn't really get too deep into it. And we talked about Sauce a little more. Derek Stingley is a possibility for the Jets at 10. What do you think of Stingley with the couple-year history he's had now? Absolutely, tremendous as a freshman at LSU. Off the charts, cornerback. And then banged up. All right, does he want to hit people? Does he want to play tough? Does he care? Whatever. Stats aren't there anymore, but still has a great frame, great athleticism, etc. What do you think of Stingley? Do you think he's worthy of a top 10? And can you see the Jets go in that direction?
Stingley is definitely freaky, man. I know when he first started playing, when he was a freshman, I was when they had their big year, at LSU with Joe Burrow and them. And I was like, dude, this kid's going to have a crazy career. If this is his freshman year, you have 2 more years of this and he's going to dominate. And then obviously had the COVID year. And then last year he had a lot of injuries. So it kind of was kind of a wet blanket career that he had. You thought he was really going to kind of go off and then just kind of fizzled out a little bit. But then he had a great pro day. And then everyone's all over him you kind of get reminded of just how great he could possibly be. Personally, I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he should be a top 10 pick. I think a lot of the teams in the top 10 have, I guess, better needs, and I think he's kind of a. I think he still needs to be polished up a little bit. And as freaky as he was, you know, he wasn't a shut down Sauce Gardner corner. You know, the guy that's, you know, never scored a touchdown in his career on him. Like that, Stingley definitely had his moments last year in that COVID year where he was getting abused a little bit, and guys were not afraid to throw at him. So with that said, I would definitely think that, you know, there are teams that, hey, you know what, let's go get a receiver. Or, hey, like, you know, like the Jets, like, let's go get a receiver. Or, you know, one of those teams in the other top 10, like, I think it's just too much of a risk for some teams to go and get that. Now, every GM and, you know, has that tendency where they're like, you know what, I'm trying to make a splash. I want everyone to remember how good this pick was, and I want to secure my job, and I'm going to take a chance. Someone will do it, but at the same time, you know, the teams that always just make like a solid pick are always the team that win, and you know, they're usually at the bottom of the draft. So We'll see. You know, I'm sure someone will take a chance on him, and obviously I hope he does well, but I just don't think he's like a top 10 like this year on a top 10 draft. You know, talent.
All right, let's get to the point where I don't know if usually you would say, all right, this is the first thing we're going to talk about. It's the most important thing. It's almost the only thing we have to talk about. Now it's 45 minutes into this episode, and I'm just thinking about getting to the quarterbacks. And that's kind of problematic. I made this tease. It feels like a whole year ago. Kyle's computer blew up, and now it's back.
Yeah, dude. Shit. Had to call the Geek Squad real quick.
We're back here, and we're ready to talk about quarterbacks. And it's wild that we're doing this 45 minutes into the episode, but that's what this draft is kind of called for at this point with the lack of hype around all these dudes. So you got Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh, Malik Willis, Liberty, Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati, Matt Corral, Ole Miss. Is there another quarterback that I'm missing? That's like, I know there's numbers here saying there might be 5 quarterbacks in the first round now. What's the is there a 5th guy that I'm missing here? Help me out. Sam Howell.
Sam Howell. I don't know if he's. I don't know if he's one.
Howell, yeah.
He's in that next area. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely being mentioned.
One, but there's definitely a secured second day guy like Steele. I mean, someone might take a chance on him first round, but he's a second day guy.
Right, and Kyle, we were losing you there for a hot second there, but I think we picked it up for the most.
That expensive mic, man. That expensive mic. I think my water bottle is working a little bit better.
You know, listen, bro, you know what it is, man. They got me over here in the odds, man. You know, the outcast playing rent can fuck up, man. You know, I'm a start.
You went from having that. You went from having that serious XM radio voice to now you sound like a robot, and you'll see it on the recording, Kyle. You're going in and out.
Trust me. I'm listen, when I'm what do you call it? I see some of the cameras are like spinning. I'm like, oh, this is not gonna be good.
We'll make it work, man. We'll make it work.
I just know eventually it's gonna get to me to like
that's what it was just doing. But you're coming through clear now. Coming through clear now.
Now you're back. Now you're back. And I think
I was saying that I'm paying all this damn rent. You know, my dad, paying rent to my dad, and brother can't get no Wi-Fi over here.
You need a range extender up there or something.
Dude, I got a range extender. They gave me probably the last one on the shelf and shit. He don't need the internet. He'll be all right.
Throw a TV in there. All good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyways, we're here to talk about quarterbacks, and you know what? I would have been upset, Kyle, if we lost you because you are one of the resident quarterbacks of this program here. So, first of all, before we get into it, does it hurt your feelings that the quarterback's catching so much hate this year, Kyle?
Bro, mad hate, but at the same time, I get it. Like, some of the guys are kind of inconsistent throughout their career. Like, what Malik Willis was on TV more than usual because Liberty is never on TV, but they have Hugh Freeze now, who's the old Ole Miss head coach, so he's getting love. You got me? You got me with that?
Yeah, you're good. You're
And
good.
okay. And I think Kenny Pickett is a guy that everyone's been talking about, he might be a steal. This is like during his season, I'm saying, he's pretty good, but everyone I felt like was getting he's good, but all the time.
But he has those Whopper. He got the Whopper Junior hands where he has to wear the two gloves.
Yeah, right.
He's good,
right?
But
and I'm like,
he got the
automatically. Hands. Yeah, man. I'm like everyone's dogging hands. I'm like, yeah, bro. Like he's playing with two gloves, just like Teddy Bridgewater. He's still in the league. Like, can a dude play or not? That's the biggest thing. And the pro day just becomes a show and pony with. The guy's got small hands. It's going to impact how the spin rate on his football. Like, all right, bro. Like, can a dude win or not?
And Johnny Manziel comes out in the helmet, shoulder pads, pumping Drake, and off the charts. So I'm with you.
And all of a sudden his pro day is amazing because he's got big hands and he can spin it in a pro day. And George Whitfield's his quarterback coach. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, these guys, routes on air to these guys is absolutely nothing. These guys have been doing it their entire lives. So every single football practice.
I actually have a guy. I don't want to call him a source because that's not fair to him, but he's still a football player in his own right. And he's been running some routes with Kenny Pickett leading up to this draft out in New Jersey. Kenny Pickett, New Jersey guy.
Hey, Ocean.
Yeah. Shout out to Ocean. He was actually on with Keith McPherson to circle back. Keith had Kenny Pickett on last week, I think, on the Fan. But this kid who I know who's running routes for him, he's like a D3 player who did 4 years, was a stud at his D3 school, did a fifth year at a D1 and played a little bit, whatever. So he's a player, he's legit. He's like, this is so different from any quarterback that I've seen at D1, at D3, obviously. Like, it's just different. He's like, I don't know what that means. He's, to your point, TA, he's like, I don't know what that means. Like, everything's in my chest. Everything's perfect. Like, everything's right where it needs to be, but it's on air routes. Like, are we going to put that much stock into it? I don't know. Obviously, people are trying to pick holes in these guys as much as humanly possible. And that's the thing I want to get to here. So I teased this earlier. I want to lay it on you before we get into specifics about the quarterbacks. I think there's a chance for this year's quarterback class to have as much success as quarterback classes of the past, especially when you start to think about the breakdown of some of these classes. The Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen class, Josh Allen class. Josh Allen ended up being the best dude. Baker Mayfield is getting kicked to the curb out here. Sam Darnold's on his second team. Josh Rosen's basically out the league. That was a great quarterback class, but most of them went to terrible situations. In this case here, you have Willis, Pickett, Ritter, Corral, all projected to go from anywhere, 6 being the absolute earliest to the end of the first round, with teams like the Steelers, with teams like the New Orleans Saints and the Seahawks interested in grabbing quarterbacks. 3 teams that have had success with quarterbacks in the past, who have true foundations as a franchise. And so often we talk about a quarterback with talent goes to a bad situation and fails miserably. How often do we talk about a quarterback who might be average, who goes to a good situation and has a 10-year career as a starter? I think there's a real chance that 2 or 3 of these dudes can go 10 to 25, 30 and end up having legit careers in this league, with the chance of a Malik Willis and a Desmond Ritter, in my opinion, those two specifically, being even a little bit better than that. So I think there's a hole in the market here where the value is now low, which makes teams come in hot and grab these guys and all of a sudden end up with steals of the draft. What do you think?
QB1, let's hear it. Start with you.
No, listen, man, I'll tell you this. There's a lot of guys in this draft that the quarterbacks, obviously, there's a lot of guys in this draft. I think Malik Willis is going to take this league by storm, bro. That's my guy. And the reason why is because he's already has, the athletic tools already off the charts, right? Has a strong arm. And I think a lot of people are saying like, oh, he's very inaccurate and, he doesn't, the ball, you don't know where the ball is going to go. It's like, yeah, bro, they said the same thing about Josh Allen. Like, your athleticism, I feel like can get you through the door. Once you're in the door, all right, bro, learn how to play quarterback. That's it. And I think there's a lot more quarterbacks and a lot more teams that are saying like, oh, well, we don't really need a quarterback, but, and then they're going to steal one. Like let's say, for example, like the Titans, right? They paid, Tannehill, right? All this money. Didn't do anything with Julio Jones last year. Kind of came up short in the playoffs. Why wouldn't they go get like Ritter, right? And give that man a shot. Now, I know it's in the first round and like they're like trying to like it's almost going to be AFC Championship or bust. But at the same time, that's kind of like a chance like you have to take. Like, you know what, man? Like this, it's almost, I compare it to like the Titans. I'm like not stuck on the Titans right now, but just thinking about it, they're almost like the Jazz right now, right? The Jazz are about to blow up. They're about to implode and be like, you know what? We're going to trade everybody away. Let's restart. I think the Titans are almost in that same boat because they keep, they're trying to shop A.J. Brown. They got Derrick Henry, but he wasn't healthy last year. They have Tannehill right now. Tannehill had an okay year last year. All right, what are we going to do if this season doesn't go the way we want it to go? What are we going to do? Maybe we should get a quarterback and start over. I don't know. And I think those are, the Bucs are in that situation. The Titans are in that situation. Shoot, the Cardinals might be in that situation with Kyler Murray,
Yeah.
And I think that's a situation a lot of people aren't talking about right now. If Kyler Murray doesn't go back to the Cardinals, what are they doing at quarterback? Maybe they draft a quarterback. And say Kyler Murray comes back and then wastes the pick. That's going to suck for them. But at the same time, you got to almost prepare for the future.
Minnesota, another one as well.
Minnesota, yeah.
Like, they're going to keep rolling out Kirk Cousins to win 8 games every year? Like, I don't know.
How many times are you going to – yeah, it's tough. My cousin's a Vikings fan, and every year complains about Kirk Cousins, but then he's like, all right, who's out there, though? What free agents are out there? You got to settle with it, and he's got a point, unless you want to start over.
But yeah, like I heard someone on a podcast say, like Desmond Ritter is like cool Kirk Cousins, like he's Kirk Cousins minus like the being lame and not taking risks. It's Desmond Ritter, like he's got better PR, he's cooler, and he's gonna let it fly a little bit. Like what are we missing here, right? So all right, TA, let's talk about these specific guys now. Kyle gave his spiel a little bit on Malik Willis. I tend to agree. And I do have an overarching quarterback question here. Actually, you know what, TA, before we go to you, I'm sorry, I got another question for resident QB1 over here. So much is made of these quarterbacks specifically, literally like all of them, how often they break the pocket and what they do after they break the pocket and how quickly they do so, right? Willis had a crazy like sack number. He got pressured a ton, whatever, but they run so many RPOs. And if he's not hitting the first read, the linemen aren't blocking to block for 5 seconds. They're blocking a block for a 1.5 or whatever it may be, right? And that's all the systems in college right now. So I want to ask you as a quarterback, like how can you evaluate the way quarterbacks are getting sacked, the way they're escaping pressure, the way they're making decisions outside of the pocket when the offenses that they're in don't call for them to sit in the pocket very long? Because if that first read isn't there, they don't even really have a true second read that's possible because the linemen are blocking a different style. I don't know if that makes complete sense. Hopefully it made some sense to you. Can you break that down to me? Because I think it's somehow a little bit unfair to all these guys, Willis, Pickett, and Ritter, because they all kind of do the same thing. They see a pressure and they get the hell out of there. But what are they supposed to do in this type of situation, in this offense of style?
No, you make great points because the guy.
Damn.
We just lost him.
Man, do I want to know what Kyle has to say right now. We lost Kyle there.
I'm getting blue balls right now.
TA, jump in. You played some football in your day, bro. Come on, jump in. What do you have to say about that topic? We lost Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, no, honestly, like I'm thinking back to your point earlier, which was a great point. I mean, you're so right in the sense that with these quarterbacks, they're going to have the opportunity to be drafted into good situations, which I think is the biggest mistake of most teams. Hence why I don't want the Giants to draft a quarterback this year, because you need to have the foundation built before you put one of these young guys into a very difficult situation. So, when I think of, today's NFL, and to your question with mobility and getting outside the pocket and making plays. That's what today's NFL is, right? It's a lot of RPO. It's quarterback friendly. It's a lot of, just getting the ball out of your hands, and it's all yak today, right? It's not about the 5-step drop, and it's quarterback friendly, but these quarterbacks have so much pressure to perform within that rookie contract. I never remember it being like that. Early 2000s, right? Eli Manning had some brutal early years. That's just, me obviously with the Giants bias remembering that, but it was time. Like it was, don't worry, we're going to develop him over time. He's going to get good. These guys have to come in and perform. And to your point, I mean, you got to put them in a good situation, but it tends that you see with these guys, they're all athletes, for the most part, right? I think all these guys, obviously Malik Willis being the top athlete, but all these guys can spin it. All these guys can move around. It's going to be about who's in the best situation with the best line in front of them and be put in that position to succeed, whether that means sitting a year or, being put into a team that has that quarterback whisperer type coach or system.
Yeah, and Josh Allen's a blessing and a curse, right? Because how many people are going to talk themselves into a quarterback of the future because Josh Allen wasn't accurate in college either, right?
Yep.
It's a really tough ledge to walk on.
I mean, look at Trey Lance, right? You look like Trey Lance last year. Like he was supposed to be like Josh Allen, right? That like he's drafted off a small school guy, big body, big arm. And I think when you could get away from the top 10 with any position, you could kind of start going from better football player rather than freak athlete, physicality, right? And you look at that quarterback draft you mentioned, these quarterbacks, great quarterback class, they're all 6'4", they can all spin it, and then they end up all falling through.
Right.
Maybe these guys do have some serious upside being put in the right situation, and no one's talking about it.
I'm just saying, bro, Malik Willis or Desmond Ritter in Pittsburgh with those weapons, with that foundation, are they failing?
Even better, they don't need to play this year, right? Like they picked up Trubisky, not to say that he's the answer, but you gave yourself the insurance policy, right? Yeah. And he's a guy who was just in Buffalo with Dable behind Josh Allen, and he's not a bad guy to learn from, right? Just in the sense of just football IQ and learning how to be a professional and come to the office every day and learn how to be an NFL quarterback. So, I think that's the key. I think the tough team is the Panthers, right? Like you have a coach that's on the hot seat in Matt Rule. You have some suspect on the offensive line. You got a running back that can't stay healthy, that when he's in clearly makes a difference, but can't stay healthy. What do they do? That's the interesting one, because are they riding it out with Darnold again? Or they grab these guys?
They're rumored to love Pickett. And that's like, to me, that's just a sign of Pickett's going to fail. He's going to be the first overall pick. It's going to have nothing to do with his talent, nothing to do with his small hands, his Whopper Jr. hands, as he called it before. And
I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah, right.
If you ever stumble across this podcast, I'm sorry. I had to throw it. That old school commercial with the Whopper Jr. Your little hands remind me of that.
It's hilarious. But no, like it won't even be his fault per se. Like it might just not go well for him, right? Like he might just be below average for the Carolina Panthers, where if he's in New Orleans with, you don't want to give New Orleans too much credit because Sean Payton's not there right now. But they have a pretty decent track record to this point for the past 10, 12 years. I know most of those
a very good offensive line.
And a good offensive line.
Good offensive line.
Exactly. I don't even want to give the Seahawks that much credit because they were kind of a mess the past year and a half anyway. So, but like Pittsburgh, for example, like whoever goes to Pittsburgh, it's like getting drafted by the Spurs. It's like getting drafted by the Boston Celtics. It's like the odds of this working out just feel so much better when you go to a Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't care if it's Willis, Ritter, Pickett, Corral, whichever quarterback goes to Pittsburgh, I'm going to have more confidence in, because I don't have the confidence in Matt Rule in Carolina. I don't have the confidence in some of these other teams that might go for it. Like the Commanders, like if they pick a team, or are we supposed to feel a quarterback? Are we supposed to feel great about that? Not going to feel that great about it.
Yeah. I mean, with them, I guess they could always sit someone behind Wentz, but I mean, I'm with you. When you're in that like purgatory of mediocrity, like that's to me what the Minnesota Vikings are stuck in. Like you are mediocre enough to always be picking in the teens.
Yep.
And you have a ton of cap tied up to a quarterback that actually he had a very good year last year, stat wise. He didn't turn the ball over nearly as much. But what did that get you? Right?
Yeah.
It's like
he took less risks, and you know what I mean? Like he needed to he needs to get somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's what did it get you? And you're in a division with Aaron Rodgers. It's like it's tough, man. It's like teams need to start getting a little bit more honest with themselves and realizing like we're building for the next window. And I know that's tough, and you can't sell a fan base on that, but it's the truth, or else you get stuck in mediocrity. You keep on chasing after something. I mean, the Giants with their free agent signings the last couple of years, and I didn't even bring this up, but I think the one thing we all need to look at as Giant fans is, and everyone's asking me a couple months ago, who do you think they're going to pick? Who do you think they're going to pick? And I'm like, listen, it's the first year where I trust the man making the pick,
right?
Where I could say, I'm not worried about it. Let this man that gets paid a lot of money, that came from a good organization. And I love the underrated move was the guy they hired as their assistant GM, VP player personnel from the Eagles, Brandon Brown. Young guy's actually from Long Island. That was a great move because the Eagles have been drafting great for years. Always had the offensive line in place, always, hit on a lot of picks. I think they signed nearly their entire 2018 draft class this past offseason, which is impressive. So trust those men, but they need to be people you can trust. Obviously, Gettleman every year we're like, just don't fuck this up. Right? And now you're hearing the swirling rumors about Kadarius Toney. It's like, well, here's another one, right? Yeah. So all the talent in the world, but if you don't care about football and you don't have it, off the field in the drive, it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, facts. Kyle, do we have you, Kyle? I don't think we have him.
I think he's in deep thought. He's like listening. He's like, wow,
yes.
TA really just dropped some knowledge on me right there.
Yes, we hear you. A little bit.
See, he's still thinking about it.
We ain't got him. Well, that was great stuff there. I think if you had to make a bet, Kyle said before that Malik Willis is his bet. I'm putting my odds pretty split on Ritter and Willis. And I think then there's a drop to Pickett and Corral. Do you have a lean on which quarterback you like the most here?
I'm with Kyle. I love Willis, but I don't love him as a day one starter. I think he has the most upside. The guy is built like a horse. Like that dude is literally solid. Obviously fast as a cannon. I think in the right situation, if you can consider him for a year, to your point, if he ends up on the Steelers, that could be awesome. I mean, you get a division with him and Lamar Jackson in it, Joe Burrow, and Deshaun Watson now, right? Unbelievable. So,
yeah. Oh my God,
some serious athleticism and potential in that division if he ended up there. But I would ride with him. The other guys I don't know enough about. Just being honest with you.
Yeah.
Partly because of the way this draft is kind of unfolded, with the Giants picking up early and no quarterbacks that I really feel are there. But yeah, I mean, Sam Howell, North Carolina. I've read some things where he throws arguably the best deep ball in this draft. Athletic. Obviously we all think Mitch Trubisky when we go back to North Carolina, another quarterback.
Or Daniel Jones, Duke, North Carolina.
Yeah, right.
Throws a great deep ball, but does it really matter?
Yeah, when you're on your back half the time, or you're getting stripped left and right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Matt Corral obviously lit it up too. I mean, these guys, like you said, what the media says versus what these guys in the front office can be on two complete different wavelengths. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we shall see. And now Kyle is actually back, and now he's on a different device here. So what's up, Kyle? We missed you.
Yo, I swear, if you were like a fly on the wall in my apartment right now, I've literally just been throwing pens everywhere and just cursing very loudly. Like, what the fuck, man? Are you serious? Like, getting so upset. But I'm happy I'm back on. I'm gonna move on and act like it didn't happen.
All right, so that's the show. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Well, it's been real, everyone.
All right. Kyle, do you want to give me an answer? I know we got to get to receivers and we got to say goodbye here. So Can you give me an answer to that question
I'll give you
quickly to
a quick
reiterate?
answer.
There you go. No way.
It's not meant to be, Pete. Like the episode that you recorded that didn't record or came out bad quality. It just wasn't meant to be.
Every time he's about to make a great point, I can tell it.
They don't want the quarterback whisperers speaking about quarterbacks. That's how messed up this QB class is. They won't even let Kyle talk about it.
This is big quarterback just, censoring the media right now.
Exactly.
They all want us to believe it's a down year. So they're not letting anybody who wants to hype the class up.
This is Christmas Eve of the NFL. There's magic out there right now. It's not meant to happen. Kyle's not meant to speak about it. And he's texting us right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Get on the data, bro. I don't know what to say. Take that for data. He's gone. All right. So anyways, TA, we lost Kyle again. I really want to know what he has to say about that question. I thought it was a good question. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I don't feel equipped to answer it. So we're just going to leave it unanswered. And we're going to talk about wide receivers, something that you and I are more equipped to answer. So
there we go.
You were a receiver yourself. I was a receiver back in the day, not at the college ranks, but at the high school ranks.
I wouldn't even consider me at the college ranks, Pete. So me and you are in the same category.
We love our wide receivers, and we can talk about them, and we watch them, and they're my favorite position to watch. They're so fun, and they're so freaking talented and freaks of nature.
They're fun picks. They are fun picks for sure.
Happens to be like 4 to 6 who are probably going to go in the first round here, I'd say.
Yep.
And that's fantastic. To rattle off some of those names: Drake London, USC; Jamison Williams out of Alabama; Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave from Ohio State; Treylon Burks, Arkansas; Jahan Dotson, Penn State. All those dudes are likely to go in the first round, which is amazing and exciting. Makes me a little nervous, but ironically, with all this talent here, none of them projected to go higher than like that 7, 8, 9 range, mostly 10 through 25. So I don't know. Where do you want to start here, TA? Do you want to start about the receiver class as a whole? Is there one guy who does jump out as the dude of this wide receiver class in your eyes? Where do you want to take this?
Yeah, I mean, right. That's been coming up a lot just based on being buddies with Jet fans. And, obviously they got their eyes set on a receiver. I actually asked my buddy, huge Jet fan. I'll give him a shout out. Shout out to Paul. He'll love that.
Shout out, Paul.
Paul Papp. I asked him this
also
question.
2 first names?
No, Papacino. That
Okay.
definitely isn't a first name. I asked him that same question. I said, if you're on the clock at 10, who are you picking out of these guys? Because they all seem to get talked about right in that same category. And it was difficult because he loves Jamison Williams, but obviously coming off the injury. Garrett Wilson, he said, would be his guy. He likes Drake London a lot, but what we talked about with Drake London, big body receiver, today's NFL, is that an advantage in most of these offenses, right? It's not the late 2000s where you just throwing the ball up, skinny post, go up and get it. Quarterbacks aren't throwing 50-50 balls as much as they used to, period. So, that's why I think Garrett Wilson's that number one. Obviously my ranking would be Drake London 2, Jamison Williams 3, Chris Olave 4, Treylon Burks, and then Jahan Dotson, Penn State. So I think Penn State is going to make some noise in that second round. A couple positions there. They got some guys.
Yeah, so the Drake London thing's interesting for the Jets specifically because he does contrast pretty well to Elijah Moore. So if you look at Moore as like this super shifty, inside out guy who can kind of bang on the inside but also beat people deep, like Drake London would almost be like the Mike Evans style receiver, where he's not going to be slashing you up with speed, but he's going to just be in the right spots. He's going to get open. He's going to make contested catches. So on that hand for the Jets, I do like Drake London a lot, but I totally see what you're saying here from a peak perspective to compare anyone to Mike Evans when he's really the only guy like himself in the league right now is kind of difficult. Like there's way more guys, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, who are finding success like Jamison Williams, like Garrett Wilson, than guys like Drake London. Though I would also throw a guy like T. Higgins out there who isn't quite as physical as Mike Evans because nobody is as physical as Mike Evans, but he's a big guy, big target who catches everything. He's not going to torch you with speed, but you can't like sleep on him. He'll go right by you.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, maybe Drake London is the pick because that's the most Zach Wilson friendly pick in terms of just having that safety blanket to throw a 50-50 ball. Right. You know, I think, you know, they're probably right. You know, you could talk to the room will be split in terms of who you would pick at that number 10 pick. But yeah, I mean, you know, just thinking of today's NFL, you know, you can't. You got guys running around. I think of that offense they run just based on the 49ers, since obviously their offensive coordinator came from over there, as well as their head coach, obviously. A lot of crossers, a lot of roll in the pocket, a lot of getting the quarterback out. You know, they want guys that are going to run tight routes, get across the middle, a lot of comebacks to the sideline. You know, that's kind of why I have him as my number one.
What's up, Kyle?
Listen, man, it's been a rough night, dog. It's been rough. It's all good, though. It's all good. We can make it happen. Pete.
No, you're throwing me a layup. That's what it is. This is my debut. So Kyle's his Wi-Fi's fucking up so he can make me look good.
This is why pick and roll was always so good, man. Get the damn ball. Get up.
That was a pick and pop.
You know what I mean? That's it. He's more a pick and pop guy. That's right. He's more a pick and pop guy. But yeah, man, I agree though. Wilson's the guy. Wilson's the guy, and you know, from watching Ohio State's on every Saturday and every highlight, you know, on House of Highlights all the freaking time. But legit, Wilson is the guy. And like you said, Tom, you make a great point because San Francisco, you know, always likes to roll the pocket, likes to run a little bit of play action, get him out of the pocket. And this is a guy that's going to get across the field, and that's what he did a lot at Ohio State. And I think it's his game, which I think he can pretty much run every route in the tree. But I think his game is going to translate to what the Jets want to do best. Get the ball out fast, get him the ball in space and let him work. And he's a big yak guy and a guy with a lot of speed that's definitely going to make a difference for them.
And you know them Jets fans want to hear Wilson to Wilson all day on the field.
Oh, so, of course. Yeah.
Of course. Some corny saying.
All right, bro.
Yeah. Wilson to Wilson for 15 yards.
They'll make some dumb T-shirts with their hat.
Yeah.
Wilson squared.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. You know,
see a jersey in the future. Another black alternate dumb jersey. Yeah, classic. So stupid.
I gotta stick up for
so corny.
I gotta stick up for them though right now because they have a chance to do something special. We talked about the strategy that TA outlined before. If they grab one of these good dudes, you said Garrett Wilson. Both of you did say Garrett Wilson. I said Drake London was an interesting choice here too. But Jamison Williams is the guy who's also looked at as one of the top receivers in this class, perhaps the number one receiver to go. Yes, he's injured, but this is like a freakazoid dude. And I don't mean that just based off the fact of like measurables. I mean from like a mentality standpoint. Like Jamison Williams is kind of a nut job on the field, and you gotta love that. Now, if you saw, oh my God, I'm forgetting which game was it when he got ejected or he got a warning or something for being the gunner on punt, and he just laid a dude out and he just did it again like the next game.
Oh yeah, yes.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember now, but
I know exactly what you're talking about. Just completely just rocked the dude, and he was like, he was like starting at the time. Like it wasn't like he was like working his way up. He just put the dude out.
Yeah, and you know us
Big
pretty
time.
boy wide receivers usually don't like to get down and dirty and lay the wood like that. Like that's not usually in the DNA of a number one wide receiver. You know, we're trying to get the catches, trying to get the ladies, trying to get the nice end zone celebration going out here and not really be touched too much. But Jamison Williams comes out here and is like, yo, I'm going to murder people. Like, let's go. And that's something that's kind of exciting to see in a wide receiver. So he obviously combines that with like electric speed, you know, good hands, the whole nine. Like he's just a good receiver in general. But when you see a guy like that, Kyle, how excited does that get you? From a quarterback perspective, but then again, from like a fan perspective. I just can't ask cop questions.
You got me? Sorry.
Yeah, we got you.
We got you.
Oh my god, it's so bad. So bad, bro. So bad. It's definitely I got a curse, man. I got a curse. You know what it is? I think Connor's wedding is this weekend. It's on Friday. So it's just like I'm hoping these are just early losses turn series. That's what I'm hoping. It's just hopeful thinking. But
Stay positive.
with yeah, I'm trying to stay positive, man. I'm like gonna freak out. Shit. Can you ask the question again? I'm so sorry.
Jamison Williams, freak of nature, mentally, physically. What is it like to have a receiver like that? No, as a quarterback, what's it like to have a receiver that is like ready to be physical?
No, dude. So I had one in high school. Be honest with you, Anthony Nyers, like my boy, he was like 6'2", 180 in high school, and was like chiseled. And literally, we would pretty much ran his play. We go 3-by-1, and we throw him just. It wasn't even a rocket screen. It was just like a laser, just like catch the ball, throw it to him. And you know how many good high school blocking receivers do you know? Like probably and the ones either. Lifters do a couple tackle, right? And he would go.
What?
Nah, sorry.
I'll step in for him. I'll step in for him though. I know what he's about to say. Nothing. You look at any wide receiver highlight tape in high school, and usually one of the top 5 plays is another receiver catches the ball, crack back block, whatever it is, and that's literally what brings so much energy to a sideline, to a team. To your question, when you got a guy that takes pride in making plays when he doesn't have the ball, everyone rallies around that. So, yeah, I mean, like that's someone that is just straight dog. He's just a dog, and you need dudes like that, especially in a position that often gets categorized as soft.
Right.
I think that makes the world's difference. So, you know, ACLs now too, it's so different. I mean, guys come back stronger from ACL. So that game changed too, right? That national championship game when he went out, I mean, everything changed. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they took him too. It's tough, man. It's like there's those 3 guys at the top are good in their own different ways. You know, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. But to your point, like the Jets just being in a fun situation, the common denominator there that hopefully the Giants can turn the corner too is ownership has finally stepped back, got out of the way, hired a competent GM from a successful organization. Joe Douglas coming from he was with the Eagles and he's with the Ravens, I think, too. Right. You know, hopefully Joe Shane coming from the Bills, working with Brandon Beam. You know, you pay these guys big bucks to make these type of decisions and hit on these picks, and Joe Douglas has done a phenomenal job at building out this team. I think the good thing the Jets have done too is they haven't overspent in free agency. They kind of, you know, grab needs here and there, but they haven't just opened the bank like, you know, we saw the Giants do last year.
Right.
And then restructuring deals and pushing salary never works out.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I think with the Jets thing too, it's a little bit of a slow burn. Like Jets fans wanted more results quickly, and it just doesn't usually go like that. Like it's not going to happen overnight, and you have to kind of trust in Joe Douglas. And that's what you were saying before with the Giants. Like you have Joe Shane in house now. It almost doesn't matter to a fan who he picks because we have a trust in him that he hasn't specifically deserved yet in-house. Right? He didn't do it for the Giants yet, but he has a track record. He has trust right now. You ride with it. Joe Douglas has earned some trust to this point. Like if Mekhi Becton hasn't been banged up, you'd be feeling awesome about how he's hit on these first, second round picks.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, and what I was going to say too with Joe Shane is he hasn't done anything to deserve anything, but we know that when you're coming as the successor GM to Davey Edelman, there's only one way to go, and that's up. So we'll take anyone that just has a little bit of competency and you know looks like he fits the part. versus a guy that's shaped like an egg and has his pants tucked up to his nipples. But that's for another podcast. Joe Douglas, the only trouble I could find them running into is if the New York media and fans put too much pressure to be good too quick. And what I mean by that is the impatience comes. Like I said, read the room. You're in a division with the Buffalo Bills. You're in a division with the Dolphins now, who are, trying to make up for the lack of talent they put around Tua. And seeing what they have here, they're doing it backwards. And then you got the Patriots. Like, let him methodically continue to build out this roster, and then you could reload. I mean, the dream of being an NFL team, the Giants won the 2 Super Bowls, but we were boom or bust. We got hot at the right time. We had some teams that came together. We had a quarterback that was always there and didn't miss games, so you could build the other positions. I personally didn't even like Jerry Reese as a GM. I thought Jerry Reese was a pretty poor GM. I felt that, we never re-signed draft picks, and, the first Super Bowl, that was his rookie year as a GM. So in theory, that's not his team. He was in the front office. But my point is, you want to reload. The same teams are relevant every year. The Cowboys finally did it. I can't think of the guy's name, but Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are making these picks. Oh, it's Will McClay. Will McClay. He's like the highest paid VP of player personnel. He's making all the picks. So the more you could step away, ownership could step out of it. You get the Ravens, you get teams like the Packers. The list goes on of those teams. San Francisco, just always near the top.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Pittsburgh, they're just reloading, right? There's continuity there, and they methodically built out the roster, and then they just need to fill pieces here and there. So I think the Jets just need to be patient. Let Joe Douglas continue to do what he does. I really don't hate on the Jets at all. The only time I ever hate on the Jets is when it's fan stuff, right? Yeah. It's like just fans talking shit.
Jets fan, you got to start bickering a little bit. It's the same way I am with the Yankees. Like, I don't hate the Yankees.
And I don't hate the Mets. Right? It's like
I don't
fans.
hate them specifically, but if you start talking smack, then you best believe I'm going to start talking smack.
Yeah, back. You got it. And that's the fun part about New York sports. That's the fun part about being a New York fan. And, with that whole thing, it's just the the Jets had the biggest opportunity to leapfrog the Giants over these last 5 years, and they did it, which is like mind-blowing. Yeah. And then they've had some unlucky breaks with injuries, and obviously their division being so much better than the NFC East. Right. But yeah, they're in good shape. Obviously, everything just rides on Zach Wilson. Like every other team, you need that quarterback.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Tom Allen 17. T Allen 17 on the Instagram.
Tom Allen 17 Instagram. Tom Allen 17 Twitter.
There you go.
I ain't a big poster though. I'm on there for the news. I'm on there to collect this type of knowledge so I can share it through P's podcast.
That's what it's all about, though. Great debut for you. Outshined our
my man Kyle. It'll be comeback season. He's gonna come on with the Jordan 4-5 jersey next time. we'll do if anything, we'll do a post, maybe a post draft podcast after we get the picks, and we'll see what they do. I'm down for that. And if you're willing to have me again.
Of course. And I accidentally said extinguished instead of distinguished, and he was extinguished from this podcast.
Literally, that's what it was today.
Oh my god!
But no, I appreciate you having me. Awesome stuff. Honestly, the hosting was smooth. You're able to put up with Kyle's robotics and his voice. Hopefully, you got a great editing team over there, and they can figure out a way to get his clips. But I appreciate having me. I look forward.
You might have to just post one of his clips of me and you just laughing while he's just doing the Mr. Roboto over there.
This might be your biggest bloopers. Clip that you have at the end of an episode. But I appreciate it, man.
Oh, of course. Thank you, bro. Staying up late with me here. 3 different times I threw a question to Kyle, and he was like, he's nodding along too. He's like, yep, I'm ready to answer this question right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we might need DraftKings as your sponsor here to hook him up with some new Wi-Fi. Yeah. My man's living in the 1990s. I think he still has dial-up going on over there.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. All right, man. Let's finish up. Nothing else to say about this draft. There's a lot more to say, but that's all we're going to say for now.
Yeah.
We appreciate y'all for listening. Shout out to Tom Allen. Shout out to Kyle Anderson. I'm Pete Kennedy. This has been Subway Sports Talk. Cheers. Enjoy the draft.
Appreciate it.